picked out a couple of names to work with here, starting with Wonderful Counselor. And in Isaiah chapter 9, wonderful thing about technology, it gets in our way, but it's supposed to make it easier. Isaiah 9, closed on my Bible when I shouldn't have. Starting at verse 2, and read verses 2 and 3, and then 6 and 7. It says, "The people who walk in darkness will see a great light. Those who live in a dark land, the light will shine on them. You shall multiply the nation, you shall increase their gladness. They will be glad in your presence, as with the gladness of harvest, as the men rejoice when they divide the spoil." Isaiah went on in verse 6, it says, "For a child will be born to us, a son will be given to us, and the government will rest on his shoulders. And his name will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Eternal Father, Prince of Peace. There will be no end to the increase of his government or his peace, on the throne of David and over his kingdom, to establish it and to uphold it with justice and righteousness, from then on and forevermore. The zeal of the Lord of hosts will accomplish this." Of course, Isaiah was talking about Christ. He is the Son of God and the Son of Man. As Pastor said this morning, he's both. He was born of God and he was born of Mary, just a human being. But he came down to counsel us. Counselors seem to get a bad rap these days, probably because of the stigma that psychological problems seem to carry. People don't want to admit that they have things going on in their head that aren't normal. And then there's the flip side to that word. Counselor also means lawyer. I don't know about you, but there aren't too many people who think highly of lawyers these days. But Jesus played both roles. In this case, I think we're looking at more of the counselor that you'd sit down on the couch with and talk about things with. And he came into this world because God's chosen people had allowed things to get in their way. They had allowed their lives to be clouded by the rest of the world. Rather than sweeping those things out, they opened up the doors wide and said, "Come on in." And it caused them problems. They lost their identity. They didn't know who they were. And counselors, you can go see them. That's what they're there to do. They're there to help us find ourselves. Israel couldn't seem to get their ship right. God had sent them a myriad of people, kings, prophets, judges, who tried to get them straightened out, but they just couldn't do it. So he sent his son, Jesus. And Jesus helped people to see what in their lives was causing them to miss out on all that God had to offer them. I think the story that best serves this is the story of the woman at the well. Jesus arrived in Samaria, a hated people by Jews, by Israel. They didn't like the Samaritans. And he sat by Jacob's well. And up came a woman who said, "What can I get you something?" I said, "Yeah, a glass of water would be nice, but what can I get for you?" And the woman looked at him and said, "But you don't even have anything to draw with." He said, "Well, the water I have isn't like the water that comes from this well. The water I have, you drink it and you'll never thirst anymore." In a simple conversation about water, Jesus helped the woman to see that the way she was living, the adulterous lifestyle that she was living, was keeping her from God. And in that realization, she came to understand that he was more than just a simple man passing through their town. In his opening her eyes, in the last few weeks I talked about the I am statements in John. John was the light. He opened up her eyes so that she could see. Now, if I turn these lights off up here, you could see me, but not nearly as well, especially if I flip this over. You can't see me nearly as well as you can with the lights. That's what Jesus does. He flips that switch on in us so that we can see inside. We can see what's inside our cup so that we can clean it out. Much the same way a counselor does. A good counselor, while they often will have advice for you, they walk you through a process where you ask and answer questions on your own. And you come to the end of a story and you say, oh wow, I didn't realize that this caused all of these other problems that I had. If we're lucky, we can tie it back to one instance. Lots of us like to blame it on our parents. But, it's not always our parents. Sometimes it's our own faults. But that's what Jesus did with the woman. He walked her through a series of questions and a series of statements, and she all of a sudden had that, in the cartoons, ding! That light bulb went on in her head, and she realized what was going on. And so he took an adulterous woman, living out of adultery, never been married, and she became a leader in her community. She led her community to the saving grace that Jesus had to offer them. Jesus is a counselor. He leads us through questions. He helps us to see inside ourselves. That's what counselors do. They help us to see ourselves. Jesus shines that light into us